We are now into the final month of Virginia's race for governor. Tuesday is the final day to register to vote. Republican Glenn Youngkin is narrowing the gap with former Democratic Governor Terry McAuliffe, who is running to lead the state again. This election is not only high stakes in Virginia, but it serves as a national barometer for Democrats ahead of the 2022 midterm elections. Sullivan and Charlotte Rene Woods join me now. Sean is a CBS News political contributor and a White House reporter for The Washington Post, and Charlotte is a reporter for the nonprofit newsroom Charlottesville Tomorrow. Welcome. It is good to have you both. Charlotte, what is behind the shift of this race going from more comfortably in Democrats' favor to, some might say, causing panic in the Democratic Party?
So looking at trends in the elections from the last 20 years, typically the party that wins the presidency, the other party tends to get the governor's seat the following year. The one exception actually is McAuliffe. When he won in 2013, this was right after Obama had won his second term in the presidency. So then you're seeing a Democrat in the White House and a Democrat in the governor's mansion. And usually right after a presidential election, we are sandwiched between the presidential election and the midterm. So it really energizes both voter bases, and we see how close this race is.
Well, Sean, Terry McAuliffe once latched onto President Biden. Now he's distancing himself a bit after acknowledging the president's dipping approval numbers. Is the governor's bid really that closely tied to the presidency?
Well, I think a lot of Democrats around McAuliffe's campaign, a lot of allies of his, do feel that way, that the national mood, the overall impression that voters have in Virginia of the Democratic Party and of President Biden, who is the leader of the Democratic Party, is going to affect their opinion in this race and how they choose to vote. And we've seen, as you point out, Elaine, in recent weeks, we've seen Governor McAuliffe in some very key and specific ways distance himself more and more from President Biden. You go back to that final debate that McAuliffe had with Republican Glenn Youngkin, and we saw McAuliffe call on President Biden and the Democrats to reduce the top line spending number they had rallied behind in a plan to expand the social safety net. We also saw Youngkin attack President Biden's handling of the withdrawal from Afghanistan, and we didn't see Terry McAuliffe defend President Biden on that measure at all in that debate. And now we see McAuliffe in this video saying that the president is unpopular. So I think there's no doubt that there is a worry among McAuliffe allies, and it appears among McAuliffe himself, that the president's declining popularity, both nationally and in Virginia, is taking a toll on his candidacy and making this race as close as it appears to be when you look at the polls right now.
All right, I can't imagine what the airwaves must be like, Charlotte, in Virginia right now. What are both candidates focusing on in their ads?
So in the latest, McAuliffe has continued, as he has throughout his entire campaign, to compare Trump and Youngkin. And one of the latest ads highlights the election integrity task force that Youngkin is proposing, and it aligns with it's interspersed with statements from Trump discussing election integrity. And then aside from having policy outlines on his website, one of McAuliffe's main talking points really is to catch undecided voters. It really is to connect Trump to Youngkin and also talk about COVID. Meanwhile, one of the latest Youngkin ads highlights numerous campaign events where McAuliffe has stated inflated case numbers and accused him of fear-mongering. Education is also something that's playing out in a lot of their ads, and it is one of, I would say, the national talking points that is trickling into this state race. And I think both candidates also, when it comes to, education-minded voters, they really want to appeal to sort of the voters who are parents who live in these politically purple suburbs, because that's where some of the undecided voters might also be.
All right. Well, Sean, how are both candidates trying to motivate their voters to ensure maximum turnout?
Well, when you look at the campaign that Terry McAuliffe is running right now, as Charlotte mentioned, a lot of it is rooted in tying his opponent to former President Donald Trump, pointing out the connections between Youngkin and Trump, pointing out the fact that Trump supports him. This is clearly a play to do a couple of things that the McAuliffe campaign hopes to accomplish. One is to energize the Democratic base. Even though we're almost a year removed from the 2020 election, I think one thing Democratic strategists feel is still a major factor right now in elections is that there is a lot of animosity, a lot of anger against the former president, against Donald Trump among Democratic voters. So the McAuliffe campaign is trying to use this to motivate their base. They also think that it's something that could motivate swing voters, particularly suburban swing voters, independent voters who we saw in the 2020 election and in the 2018 midterms turn heavily against Trump. And so that is a lot of the playbook right there. Whether or not that's actually going to be effective is what we're going to find out in this race. And you look at the other side, you look at the campaign that Youngkin has run, he sort of tried to do this tightrope walk when it comes to Trump because, you know, as much of a factor as Trump can be in the Democratic base, in angering voters, he still remains very, very popular in the Republican base right now. And so, you know, we're seeing Youngkin try not to fully embrace Trump in a way that will alienate him from these, you know, suburban voters, these independent voters. But he doesn't want to run too far away from Trump because then he risks alienating strong Trump supporters. So this election will also test how effective that can be. Can you walk this sort of fine line as a Republican when it comes to Trump, or do you risk alienating one side or the other? So I think we're going to see this play out in the coming weeks and on election day. And I think a lot of strategists in other campaigns around the country are going to be very, very curious to see how this plays out. And it's going to affect the playbooks that we see opened up in the coming months as strategists in both parties look toward the midterm elections next year.
It's interesting, Charlotte, as part of that playbook, Republican Glenn Youngkin has acknowledged that President Biden's election was legitimate, that Biden won the state by 10 points. Why is Youngkin now calling for an audit, though, of voting machines in the state?
Yeah, see, this is another area. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'll just start with, I guess, saying
Charlotte,
that,
I'm sorry. If you want to weigh in, Sean, when she's done, go ahead.
I guess audits of voting machines, it's already a state law that McAuliffe actually signed in 2017. The Senate bill was carried by a Republican state senator at the time. And it goes back to what Sean was talking about walking this tightrope. And frankly, both candidates have been a little back and forth on certain policies, like how far they really stand on abortion or where they stand on ending qualified immunity. And at this point, like, as we've said, it really comes down to attracting the undecided voters or the people who would flip for a particular issue.
Sean, did you want to follow up? I'll give you the last word here.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that this is an interesting area to sort of look at when you look at the differences and similarities between Trump and Youngkin. When you look at former President Trump and the campaign rallies or rallies, political rallies in general that he is holding across the country, he continues to hammer on this issue of election integrity. And we're seeing the McAuliffe campaign point that out, use that as a negative, say, hey, look, you know, my opponent, Glenn Youngkin, is also talking about that issue. He's not talking about jobs. He's not talking about these other issues. That's the argument we're hearing from Terry McAuliffe. And I think we can continue to hear that in the final weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be so fascinating to watch how Virginia voters actually interpret that kind of message, and especially, you know, Republicans, too, as you talk about walking that fine line that Glenn Youngkin is trying to walk. All right, Charlotte Rene Woods and Sean Sullivan, thank you both very much. Really appreciate it.